Hi, this is Pat from Real Progressives. I'm with Stephen Jaffe, world-renowned runner-up-ish to Nancy Pelosi. Had a few questions for you. So, first off, what was it like taking on such a behemoth in the Democratic Party?
Well, I think it's important that going into that kind of a challenge that you take it with a real dose of reality as to what you're up against. As things turned out, they could have turned out a little differently, but I knew what I was going up against when I did so. But I still feel very strongly about the reasons why I did it, and I think there are other people who are running now who should run against her. There are, as far as I know, 3 other candidates, and I'm friends with 2 of them.
Right.
So,
do you have a favorite?
well, I have not made an irrevocable final decision whether I'm going to run again. But if I were not going to run again, there's a young lady named Agatha Basilar who is running. She just only got into the race very recently. She's 27. She doesn't like me to say this, but she really is kind of a San Francisco version of AOC, Alexandria Cortez. Very smart, very articulate, young female, an immigrant. She's from Brazil. She's trilingual, and I think that's really, if someone's going to challenge Ms. Pelosi, that's the kind of person that needs to do it. Obviously, Ms. Pelosi won't have, you don't want to go to vote against a female, and that will take that bullet from the gun.
Absolutely.
And that's probably who I'll wind up supporting, although one of the other candidates is also a friend of mine, so and it's nothing personal to him.
So as far as, if you run or you don't run, do you have any advice for progressives taking on the establishment?
Yes, I mean, and a lot of it has to do with my own experience, what I experienced. The best piece of advice I think I could do is make yourself into a brand. Make something about yourself that when people hear your name or see you or hear about you, they say, oh yeah, that's the person who, then fill in the blank. I mean, whether it's seizing on 1 or 2 signature issues. For example, Bernie, for a long, long time, rode the healthcare for all issue. That is, I think, probably still his signature issue, although he's talking a lot about other things now. So I think that will help distinguish you from the pack and from other candidates. I learned a great deal about people during I actually ran for like 2 years. It was a long run. But I actually, as much as I learned about other people, I learned more about myself. I came to understand when you're running for office, every day presents another opportunity for you to kind of bend or flex your own principles, because the group you're talking to at any one time, everyone has an agenda, everyone has their own issue, and it's very easy to adapt what you're saying to what you think they want to hear. And sometimes that goes a little astray of what your true principles may be. And I guess one of my, I don't know if it's a shortcoming or not, but I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that. And that gives you a lot of insight into yourself as to what your real core beliefs are, even though sometimes it doesn't make your audience happy.
Do you think there are special challenges because you get a large pool of progressives running? Like, would you be open to the idea of sort of whittling down the progressives to 1 or 2?
That's a real loaded question for me. As you may or may not know, I was running for over a year, and the guy who finished just ahead of me came in at the very last minute, at the 11th hour, 59th minute, and I have to think that he knew coming into the race at that time would do exactly what it turned out doing, which is splitting the progressive vote and handing the second place to the Republican.
Right.
Handing the second place to the Republican. So the answer to your question is yes. In a perfect world, there would be some kind of pre-progressive caucus where people got together and say, look, we need to pick one of us to carry the flag here. But that historically is not what Democrats or progressive Democrats do. Look at the presidential primary.
We're already there. Yeah,
20,
absolutely.
20 or something candidates instead of 2 or 3, I mean, who may have genuine substantive differences. So that's my best answer.
So, plans for the future if you don't run?
If I don't run, I will support somebody who is running against Ms. Pelosi. I still think District 12 needs a representative in Congress who represents the people here in District 12, not tries to represent the entire United States. And so that's my short term. I am still a quite active practicing lawyer, so I'm doing a lot of lawyering, and I'm still the president of our South Beach District 6 Democratic Club, so I'm involved in local politics. I'm the National Legal Counsel for the American Federation of Aviation. AFA, American Federation of Avians, the bird people.
Right. Good for you.
My wife and I own 4 parrots, so I'm deeply involved in bird and animal rights and laws and things like that. So that's keeping me very busy.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day for the interview.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck.
Thank you very much.
A bird person, and remember there was that wonderful moment when the bird landed on.
That was the highlight of the convention for
Wasn't
me.
that amazing?
When that little, I think it was a swallow,
It was a swallow.
landed on the podium next to Bernie. And of course he said this is a sign from God that
know.
he blessed it. It was like a Disney movie where the birds are all flying around Snow White, or Cinderella, which the birds do.
Absolutely.
But yes, I think it was had to do with a lot of luck. I also believe birds know and animals have a very good sense of who's a nice person.
That's right.
And I think the bird probably sensed that. Bernie did not look scary or like a predator, like some other candidates may. So I think that was part of that.
It's interesting how you've been running around here, and you can kind of sense the people that are kind of have that corporate vibe. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Very much so. It's like it's in the eyes, it's in the dress, it's in
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Of course I
so,
do.
Yeah, you're sure
and the more you talk to them, the more
Right.
apparent it becomes.
Yes,
One of the
yes.
things I said when I was running is the 2 rarest words in politics are the words yes and no, because
There's all this double speak.
most questions can be answered yes and no. Most people who don't want to answer the question will evade and avoid and obfuscate, and they won't answer them. I always try to answer questions yes and no, and then if somebody wants to have me expound on it, then I'll do it.
Right.
But I think that's how you can really tell somebody who's
Someone's genuine.
yes.
Now you said that there were ways in which you did not compromise, and there were things that you felt you were getting pressured to compromise on. I'm just curious, what were some of those pieces that you were being pressured to compromise on and you didn't, and you chose not to?
I don't think pressured is right.
Okay.
I felt that if I would go speak to an audience who may have a different view on an issue
Right.
that I do, it would have been very easy for me to bend my speech to give those people
Kinda
what they want to hear. And what I found as I did this over and over again is that I was just, I don't know whether it's my stubbornness, I was just unwilling to do it.
So did you sometimes do just the opposite, kind of?
No,
sort of?
I always stuck to,
To your message.
yeah. And I had a couple signature issues. One of them is not one you hear talked a lot about, but it's one that really resonated with everyone I talked to. I have somebody in my immediate family who, thank goodness, is doing very well now, but has a severe mental illness, schizophrenia.
Sure.
And I've been involved as a mental health advocate for 20 years now, and it's something that I know a lot about. And one of my planks was about decriminalizing mental illness, and I could talk to you for a week about that. And when I would bring that up in a group, I'd always get applause and because everybody, the 3 of you standing here, has someone in their family or they know someone
Absolutely.
who suffers from, and it's a subject that touches everybody.
Yes, it does.
So,
particularly now as the stressors are rising, and then
Yes.
big pharma coming in with all of the drugs that they've been
Right,
giving
right.
people, and
So,
sometimes it makes it worse.
answering your question, I did stick to my principles, and I don't think it had much to do with the result, but it made me wonder whether I really want to be playing in a game
Playing politics.
where that's the rules. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for
Do you litigate?
40. Yes, I've been a
Okay.
litigator. I spent 48 years in courtrooms, and obviously our court system is not perfect, but most of the time, when you make representations to a judge or the
Right.
other side
Sure.
that are plainly false, flat out lies, most of the time there is a consequence to you for doing so.
Good to hear that that does happen.
No, it does. It really does. And in this universe that we're standing in now, there is no consequence for not telling the truth, and there should be. And there should be, and there should be more politicians calling out people. I mean, the only
That's right.
people calling out people now are Democrats for Trump's lies because
Right.
it's
It's like
such
we're
an obvious.
anti. And everything is an
Yes.
opinion. You know, it's not truth anymore. Oh, that's your opinion.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying: everyone's entitled to their opinion, but not everyone's entitled to their own facts.
Right. Well, now they are.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
Right.
So, what percentage of the vote did you get?
I don't know the percentages. I got about 12,000 votes.
Okay.
The guy in front of me who came in at the last minute got, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 more, maybe 4. I don't know. Republican got more than him. So the election was really over at the end of the primary because it was Pelosi against the Republican.
Right.
And here in San Francisco, that's it. It's
So-
not a contest. Had the other guy not come in at the 11th hour,
Right.
you know, I gotten even 50% of his votes, it would have been me against Pelosi, and that would have
Wow.
been a much more
Would have been.
interesting
So,
result.
so how did you fund this? Did you get donations? Did you largely out of your own?
It was
Just
funded
curious.
by.
Is that an inappropriate question to ask?
No, that's
good.
fine. No, I
I'm
have
just
no
curious
problem.
about.
It was funded in two ways, partially by me, but certainly
Yes.
not the majority. Majority of my funding came from individual donations.
Wow, that's-
Not a lot of big dollar donations. I only got one maxed out donation, and that was from, drum roll here, Susan Sarandon.
Oh, I love
Okay.
her.
So,
She's my woman.
I also, that was my big donation. But what was interesting about my donors were two things. One, the number of them, because there
Right.
were literally thousands
Right.
of them. And two, where they were, because when I first announced, my donations came from all over the country. All over the country, which was, to me, a real commentary on what people thought of Nancy Pelosi. Because
Absolutely.
that was not about me,
Right.
because no one had ever heard of me then. And here they were just passing out. My opponent, who I won't name, the guy finished ahead of me, last time I checked on the FEC, and I don't hold me to this, but he had, early in his campaign, and maybe even later, 63 donors.
How many donors
And
did you
they-
have though, in total?
Thousands.
You had thousands.
Thousands. I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000.
Wow.
You can. I invite you to check on the FEC website. They will,
Wow, that's
it's all there. But I had $1 donations, and people would say, they would call me or email me and say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Jaffe, I really like you, but I'm on welfare. I can't." I said, "Do me this favor." I said, "Send me $1, and that way you will get into the system, and you will be making a statement
great.
about what you believe." And these people would send me $1.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Tell me about your bracelet. Is there a story?
No, there isn't. My wife and I were shopping, and I was looking for one. I very much like Santa Fe. We go there, and I was looking for something
Santa
that
Fe.
looked like a Native American.
It does look native.
And
It's beautiful.
I saw this,
Uh-huh.
and
Nice
grabbed
colors.
it. Yes.
Really like it.
And this is.
And the parrot.
And I always have a
Yes.
parrot pen usually because I have my parrot.
All right. Well, thank you.